Welcome to the 37th episode of Downtime Podcast, and on today's episode I have Brandon.
Hello, this is Brandon.
And welcome back to the podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. We're going to have a very special spoiler cast as the both of us played The Fractured But Whole. In fact, we both played it twice to get 100% completion on the trophy.
Woo!
Let's just get to it. So, if you're listening, and I'm going to drag this out so you get the point, this is a spoiler cast. So, if you don't want to know about the storyline of the game yet, then you should probably just exit this podcast right now and go to the next thing. Or, if you don't want to know about the PC Principle, basically everything after PC Principle episodes of South Park, you should probably not listen to this either.
Or maybe watch South Park.
Yeah.
We will also be talking about such deep mysteries as is the game titled Fractured But Whole or Fractured Butthole.
Yes. So if you're also easily offended, this is probably the best time to drop off.
Isn't that kind of offensive?
No. No, I think we're okay. Alright, so, and cut.
To begin, we have the cast of South Park, as we all know and love. It begins right as the last game left off, for the most part. You are playing as the new kid, quote-unquote, again. And you have your trusty crew of South Parkian characters to accompany you along your journeys. It's making the transition just as the end of the Stick of Truth is wrapping up, and there's still a bunch of kids everywhere playing the warriors and the wizards and doing all that fun
Dungeons and Dragons, mythical
jazz,
Game of Thrones,
yeah,
Lord of the Rings type thing.
Yes. And at which point, basically, you're called out because they need you. You're the king from the last game. So the new kid... By the way, this might be spoiling the last game, too, if maybe you didn't play that for some reason. Why wouldn't you play that? Go out and play it. Which, I do believe the first game is a very excellent game, in my opinion. I believe that. So anyway, you're playing as a new kid. He goes out, and you have to fight a bunch of things like dragons and the enemies and warriors and wizards.
And this is your training tutorial for using the battle system.
Yes, which has changed significantly. Well, significantly in certain ways than the last one.
It's no longer a hack and slash.
Yeah, it tries to be more of a chess tactical type of situation. I mean, the last one was tactical as well, but this one tried to change it up in a chessboard type of way. You wrap up, and then it's abruptly interrupted by Cartman, I think, who wants to change games now.
Yeah, so he wants to stop playing Dungeons and Dragons, medieval shit, and he wants to now play superheroes. And the reason he wants to do this is he sees a potential franchise.
Yeah, he wants to get money. Sweet money.
And in typical Cartman fashion.
Yes, so he knows that there is a reward to find a cat. Am I correct? That's like how this starts.
Yeah. There's a $100 reward to find a missing cat.
And this missing cat is now their goal. So the whole team is assembled, at least what is present of the team, since at this point in the game they are actually fractured. Half the team is playing superheroes as well, but they are separate from Cartman's group, Coon and Friends, and they are the Freedom Pals. That's right.
So it's really a Marvel versus DC type situation.
Yep.
And the reason they are fractured is because the team couldn't agree on a franchise and who got the most movie. Like, basically, like, typical kid stuff, typical South Park storyline. The kids wanted to have different movies and different franchises just as emulated by Marvel and DC, but at a meeting, which is actually explained in the wait intro when you leave the menu screen idle. It explains that both teams didn't agree, and Cartman basically wanted all of the screen time to himself.
Basically, yeah. He kept cheating people out of their screen time. So it fractured. Let's see.
And Kenny is the leader of the Freedom Pals. So it's Mysterion versus Coon. The first day of the game, you're learning more about the battle system and the happenings of your character. So your character has an alcoholic and stoner parent, and you play superheroes so that you can avoid them.
Yes, and they're always fighting. Every time you see them, they're always fighting. And then they want you to eat your food, and then you go to bed.
And it's important to note that he eats dinner before he goes to bed. More on that later.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Always eat your dinner, boys and girls.
Your new kid goes to Cartman for the first time, and he talks about being a superhero. I mean, obviously, the new kid never talks, but he
stares at Cartman.
He stares at
Cartman keeps answering questions that were never asked.
Exactly. What happens throughout the game is you pick up 3 classes until you reach the final battle, and then all of the 10 classes are available to you. But for now, you only choose 1. And it follows the same formula. So you talk to Cartman. Cartman has a selection of classes you can choose from. Each class has 4 moves. 3 regular moves and 1 ultimate move. And when it's introduced to you, it goes to a cutscene that teaches you how to use those moves and how to battle on the grid. And
This is your tragic backstory.
And
so every hero class that Cartman introduces you to always has a tragic backstory, but the tragic backstory is suspiciously always the same, with a few altered environmental changes.
Exactly. So the first time it's regular, the second time there's an alien in it.
Right, but the backstory, so it's important. We may as well talk about the backstory right now, since it's all spoilers anyway.
Yeah.
So the backstory basically revolves around, one night, you woke up, you heard a strange noise out in the living room. Right?
That was pretty good. That was really good.
You go to investigate. It's 3 criminals, and there's...
Burglars.
Burglars?
They broke into your house.
Can't they be criminals? Smooth criminal.
Smooth criminal.
Smooth criminal. And they don't explain why they're there. They're just trying to get your parents. So you have to stop them. So as you go through the sequence event, he has you learn about how to use different skills of the certain superhero that you might have unlocked, which you have an option to choose between several at each stage. So it's pretty entertaining to hear the comments. And then ultimately there's an ultimate skill that you will have that you can unlock after your battle bar gets to 100%, and your battle bar goes up when you hit things and when you get hit. So it goes off frequently, and it's pretty powerful a lot of times. With that being said, the ultimate end of the tragic backstory is your father fucking your mom.
That's it.
Yeah, so you go in to your parents' room to check to see if they're all right, and it's too late. Your father's already fucking your mom.
And then ends the cutscene.
And ASMR, your father's already fucking your mom. Yeah, that's the end of the game, right?
And that's the end of the game.
Yep.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, so...
What, it's not?
No, it's not.
Oh. Shoot.
Yeah. So, as you're going through, they're teaching you also about your identity, and part of your identity is you have to go to school, you have to declare a gender, you have to declare your sexuality, you have to go to PC Principal and declare your race.
You have to
go to Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, go to Mr. Mackey and declare your gender, right? And then
your gender first.
And, well, like what your born gender is, and then what your associated gender is.
Yeah.
And they're just playing the most delightful music while you're choosing.
I know. And the second time you have to declare your sexuality is also with Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Okay.
Just take your time. It's okay.
The third time, you have to declare your race and your nationality, and you have to find PC Principal in a bar.
Well, the other interesting part, going back to the Mr. Mackey things that I now remember, is once you declare your sexuality and your race. Is it race?
Yes. Actually, anything in the game. When you declare anything about your identity in the game.
Yeah, that's true. Every time you declare anything in the game about your identity, once you exit the office that you had to declare it at, you get attacked by the wonderful 3 rednecks that don't take kindly to your type, no matter what you choose. So you could be a white redneck, and they do not take kindly to your type.
It's like it's interchangeable depending on what you chose.
Yes. So I thought that was delightfully humorous. It just shows that people probably indeed do just hate people for whatever reason they can find. I think that might have been the message. And on that time, it's really funny because it's the difficulty scale. It's not really the difficulty scale in the game, but they call it the difficulty. And there is a special achievement that you unlock if you play through the whole game on master difficulty,
Mastermind
while
difficulty.
Simultaneously being black color skin. So
now,
it's pretty fun.
Playing through both of them, my first playthrough was just normal, and I chose a character to emulate myself, and I have brown skin. And the next time I had Mastermind, I did not think there was anything different about being black, just that the Mastermind storyline meant that the enemies were much more difficult and you had to think more strategically about the grid and where you placed your characters on the board. But I didn't experience anything with just being black.
Neither did I. So what I could say is it definitely seems like it's just a joke at the beginning of the game to have a difficulty slider there for your color of your skin. As far as the game, I'm sure there's like a lot of hot political topics we could talk about in other threads, but we're gonna not talk about them here.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, I will just say this. I'm a bit disappointed that the final trophy we had to get was play on Mastermind and be a black person, because there's if there's one thing that kind of annoys me about trophies and achievements, it's if I have to play the game over again, but if I knew something in advance, I could have gotten all the trophies in one playthrough.
Yeah, it's the cheap shot, basically, to get you more gameplay out of the same game without actually enticing you to get more gameplay. As if you're a trophy collector or a point collector on 360 or Xbox One or whatever.
Yeah. As you're finding this cat, there's a few side quests that pop up that obviously are all based off episodes of South Park. One of them, I think probably the best side quest and storyline, is one that I didn't see on the actual TV show of South Park, which is really disappointing, and I want to watch it, but it's the side quest with Tweak and Craig, and how they're dating, or like how they had a secret relationship.
Yeah, I didn't see that one either.
Yeah.
I am a terrible fan.
I know, and
good God.
Yeah, and that was probably one of my favorite side quests that came out of that game, because they're going through a breakup, or it's the after breakup in this video game, and towards the end they make up, and they actually, so aside from your character, all of your character allies, which are the superheroes, they also have ultimate attacks, and if you complete this side quest, then you unlock a special ultimate attack.
Oh, it's good.
And it's
the ultimate attack itself is just like pretty standard, but the animation that goes with it is pretty epic, I think. And I never once got really tired of it, and I watched it a bunch of times.
I know. Moving forward in the plot line.
Well, let's move backwards, because I know we missed an important one, too. So the Raisins subplot line too.
Oh, the Clyde.
Was pretty, yeah. So you have to go save Clyde from Raisin Girls because the Raisin Girls are his superhero weakness. AKA, I guess his superhuman weakness is that he's a human male.
Yes.
In this case, so every superhero is required to have a weakness, a tragic weakness of some sort. And Clyde's happens to be the Raisin Girls. So every time you have Clyde in your party and you're fighting the Raisin Girls, he will pretty much be useless.
Yep.
And then at the end of this sub quest, it requires you to choose one for your own character. Now, this is an interesting thing because through 2 different playthroughs, I didn't really notice the weakness that you choose affecting your character one bit at all. It's just kind of a joke.
Yeah.
One of them was we ended
crab
up
people.
Choosing crab people, yeah. Crab people.
Taste like crab.
Tastes like AMSR. So they require you to pick one of those for your character. It's a good waste of time. But it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
You can choose ninjas. You can still choose Raisin Girls.
Yeah, and everything they have you choose from is going to be in the game at some point.
Yeah.
I just did not recognize an actual, substantial weakness against them.
Exactly.
If any.
Yeah. Which that probably could have been improved upon, or depending on how you like your battle system, if you want it more difficult, they did not make it difficult with your weakness.
Yeah, or at least not perceptively.
Yeah. That being said, there's another overarching side quest, and that's Kyle's cousin, and that annoying little fucker.
I'm back!
Oh my god. He drove me crazy, because after you defeat him...
Hey guys, I've herniated my septum again. Yeah. Yeah, it's just another time sink, basically, because he does nothing. He doesn't take a hit. He doesn't give a hit. He usually just does something stupid like trip over and break his nose again.
Yeah.
Which is humorous every once in a while.
One battle in between that I didn't mind was when the car came in.
Ha!
That was actually pretty clever. That was cute.
Get out of the road!
I thought that was really adorable. Here are all the special allies. So Jimmy is like a fast ally, and he has the most range in the grid, so he can go the farthest. Cartman is a brutalist, and so he scratches you, scratches the enemy, and makes them bleed, which is equivalent to a poison.
Yeah. Is he a brutalist? Sort of. He's like some kind
assassin,
of weird...
actually. He's an assassin.
He's an assassin, okay.
Yeah. Kyle is a healer. He protects and heals. Craig is a tank, so he has the most defense of anyone on your team.
Tanks are, particularly powerful in this game because the tanks tend to do the most amount of damage, only close range, and they tend to be able to take a large amount of damage.
Craig.
He can flip somebody off and then shield so he doesn't take damage.
Yeah.
And he can punch really, really hard.
Although he has the shortest range, a character like him gets really useful towards the end of the game. Yeah, for sure.
Or you need somebody to just be able to take a few hits and live without needing to be resurrected every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And lastly, for this group, you have Clyde. And Clyde is a mosquito. He's a general attacker, I think. I don't think he has anything special to him. Except he makes you throw up.
He's a debuffer. So yeah. he's a DPS/debuffer.
Yeah.
And he also is self-leeching. So anything he attacks with his nose attack, he will heal up from too. So he does typically lesser damage, but he can be utilized in a creative way.
Yeah.
Almost like a tank to some degree, as long as he doesn't die in one hit.
Yeah. As you're trying to find the cat, you encounter 2 new characters. One of them is a stripper named Classy, and the other one is Scott Malkinson.
With a little J that goes to the center of the A that has a little dick on it that fucks the O. It was like the long description of Classy's name. Like, oh wait, is that the stripper that has the name Classy tattooed on, but it's got the little A that has a tail that comes off with a little dick that fucks the O.
I don't even remember that.
Something like that.
In that process, you add a new person to your team, Scott Malkinson, who, where the fuck did this guy come from?
He's like a very subtle sub-character. He might have been used again in another episode that I have failed to see.
I know. I'm trying to remember what he was in. That being said, Scott Malkinson, who's Captain Diabetes, is one of the best party characters you can possibly have on your team.
Yeah, he says great things, and he is just amazingly versatile.
Yeah, he's like the number one choice I suggest as a party member, for sure.
And he is another tank class, like a Brutalist or whatever they're called, I guess.
Yeah. As you're trying to find the cat, you discover a drug ring of people...
What?
Of cats' piss being used. Another plot goes parallel with this, and it's a bunch of police officers asking your new kid character to help out with crimes, but really it's a front for the police to arrest black people who are innocent, and but more on that later.
Yes.
Now cats are apparently being used for drugs, and in this process you help save Stan's dad.
Yes, oh yeah, he was scratching his wife's car
He was
every
keying the
night
car
while they got drunk.
Yeah.
And then every morning he would be buffing the scratches out, and he asked you to help him discover who's been scratching the car.
And it turns out it's him the entire time.
Yep. Then he turns into the worst drunk of all. The
I know.
red wine drunk.
I know.
And I can tell you people, yes. Yes, I am.
What? Wait, what?
What?
That made no sense.
Sure did.
Okay, fine. After that Randy side quest, that is when you're introduced to Stan for the first time, because Coon and Friends wants you to use Stan to get in with the Freedom Pals and figure out more of the mystery. After you save Stan's dad, Stan owes you a favor. With Stan and Coon and Friends, you have to investigate a U-Haul truck area, and that's where Professor Chaos is located.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when you find out more about cats being used for drugs, because you uncover a whole entire lab.
And let's talk about the Chaos Minions. So at some point, you got various children dressed up in foil, and they are the Chaos Minions. And every once in a while, he'll have a few dogs that are just like fun. And then for the harder units, he's also hired Mexicans.
Yes.
He has Mexicans dressed up in his foil attire, which is just funny. And his ultimate minions are two Mexicans together in a uniform, with cardboard box attire and everything.
Yep.
So
there's even like a Trojan chaos thing.
Yes.
That comes out.
And this is the guy that's got all the red bricks, all the red Lego bricks, and is putting lava everywhere.
Yeah, and it's all low budget too.
And also, at some point, it's just funny to me that the whole thing was spurred off of the desire to get $100 from a reward for a cat at this point.
Yeah.
And they're facing off Butters, who somebody has anonymously given him like $40,000, and he spent it all on Lego bricks and minions to ensue chaos.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking, wow, I guess if you wanted to stop them, you could have just paid them $100.
But no. If you had $100, you could pay $100 for a ninja to not attack you.
Oh yeah, that's right. But they're shitty ninjas anyway, so
yeah,
it's okay.
The secret, though, is there's a black ninja and there's a white ninja, and you have to attack the white ninja first because the white ninja creates more.
Oh yeah.
It regenerates. As you're investigating Kenny's house, that's when you discover Mitch Connor for the first time.
Mitch Connor.
And we'll go more into that later, but the Mitch Connor storyline actually gets really fucking weird. And I don't necessarily say that in a good way either.
Yeah, it was like this stuff felt incomplete in certain areas.
It felt very contrived. It felt like contrived, and they were trying too hard to implement Cartman in some really twisted plot, like in a weird plot twist, but the plot twist did not make sense for me.
Once they pulled that card, you kind of know the answer.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the episode.
With
Mitch Connor and Cartman.
And Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. I like tacos and burritos. And kisses for my bean.
You're pretty good at these.
I try.
Stan is a generalist who does attacks and heals, but his grid is unique because he either goes as far as possible in a straight line, or he does diagonal moves.
Yes. And the straight line is a semi-weak attack because they're calculating in the fact that you could probably hit many people if they were ever lined up, which they never are.
Yeah.
And then the other one is a stronger attack, but it is only diagonal, so it's very unlikely that you're going to hit many people at a time with that one as well.
Yeah. Professor Chaos is kind of normal. I think he
does chaos damage.
He confuses people, right?
Yes, I think so. With chaos.
Yes. Tweak is a elementalist, so all of his attacks will chill, shock, or confuse.
Yes, just like caffeine.
Exactly. Token is a robot, and he can create an additional robot for you that will attack for 3 turns, or he will turn into a robot himself for his ultimate. And Kenny...
A Tupperware robot, by the way.
A Tupperware robot. And, you can't play with Timmy, by the way.
No, he's never an actual selectable character.
Yeah, because Timmy is the all-knowing Professor X-based character and is better than everyone else.
In a wheelchair.
Exactly.
He has this delightful telepathic voice.
I know, it's wonderful.
That he always puts his hand up to his head, and he just talks to everybody that way.
Yes.
So everybody can understand him. This game, say right now, kind of bridges that weird gap where you can never really tell if they're make-believing anymore, and this stuff is just happening, or if they are make-believing.
Well, it's the power of kids and their imagination.
It's the power of imagination, so
Yes.
it's actually quite delightful.
Yes.
With that execution.
Yeah. Lastly, there's Kenny, and I would actually say that Kenny is a useful character, depending on your gameplay, because Kenny is a character that can technically never die, and if you utilize Kenny's character correctly, he's very useful.
For his normal turns as a ghost, they aren't like direct attack moves anymore. He gets a new subset of attacks, and they are all like elemental dot bases. So he can put like a chill on somebody, and they'll take frost damage periodically. He could put an electrical attack on somebody, and they'll take shock damages periodically.
Yes.
And I think there was one more he could do.
Defense down.
Defense down. That's right. So that's pretty useful too if he's going to help other people give him damage.
Yes.
On the enemy. And then ultimately, when you get another ultimate bar filled up, you can use Kenny's ultimate again, and he actually does a resurrection on himself.
And he heals everyone on the board.
Yeah, so he's actually pretty useful as long as it plays out correctly for you.
Yeah, if you know how to use him, he's another great character to have on the team. Finally, after you play a little bit with Freedom Pals and get to know them more, you reach the police station. It all leads back to the police station. And as you get to the police station, that's where Coon and Friends and Freedom Pals reunite for the first time since they broke up.
Yes.
And
do we do that with I can't remember. Was there a battle that you guys...
Oh, the battle actually happens at the end.
Okay, I didn't say anything.
Battle, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if there's 2.
Yeah. So what happens is when you reach the police station, you meet up. And you're just like, okay, let's work together, blah, blah, blah. And then you go through the police station, and you defeat all of the battles, and you defeat the lieutenant final boss, and you defeat Jared from Subway.
Jared is still looking good.
Oh my god, you defeat Jared from Subway.
Oh yes, and Jared is pretty intense boss battle, not for the reasons of being difficult, but because they went there. Yeah. They totally went there. He has some attacks that he does that are could be construed as high-key offensive.
Because he's a pedophile.
Well, apparently, especially in this game.
Yeah.
So one of his main attacks is he will run up to one of the kids in your party and he will start smashing them in the face with a sub sandwich at his crotch, and just smash that sandwich into their face like he's humping their face.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you're not into,
probably not.
Make sure to get past this point.
Yeah, pretty much. It's I actually really enjoyed the police station to the point that I thought it was the end of the game. And it turns out it was not the end of the game, and I kind of wish it was the end of the game. Because...
Now, was that a sarcastic? No. I just wanted to be over.
I think the plots all made sense until to the police station, and after that, the plot got weird.
Yes.
It got super fucking weird.
Have we been mentioning along the way that we've been communicating with Morgan Freeman, our mentor, quote unquote?
Oh, no. Okay.
That he's been feeding us different kinds of tacos.
Oh, God. We haven't even gone into the new kid.
I know.
His powers.
We probably should. He actually has the power to change the universe with his farts.
And we'll get more into that, because he really does change the universe after you free all of the black people who you wrongly arrested in South Park. You finally reach this octopus monster.
I want to say that his name was Yog Theron. You can all copy and paste that one.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Leave that one in.
Right off the bat, if you couldn't tell, this game is much more politically charged than the Stick of Truth. Which the Stick of Truth, to me, felt like a much more... like old school South Park, in a sense that it was just like more random pop culture storylines, and this one felt very political climate-y.
Yeah, it was really focusing on that. And it was okay. Sometimes it felt like it was just for the pure joy of shock, which gets old, obviously, because once you've seen it, it's not shocking a second time.
Yeah.
And therefore not enjoyable a second time. Where if you go back to the Stick of Truth and you play some good old Underpants Gnomes level, sure there's shocking things in it, but still it's enjoyable as on a creative enjoyment level.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think one of the things that this game really missed were like a lot of much more random plot lines. Like, for example, one of the most random plot lines that I thought was really funny was when you choose your religion for the first time, because you encounter Seaman and you encounter Kanye West, voice of the generation, Gay Fish. So, and it's like you have to do some ridiculous shit to go into heaven and meet Jesus for the first. Like, it's like really random shit that this game was lacking.
It's super random, yeah. Even the injection of having to go do this was completely out of the blue and random, because no point was it indicated that you actually needed to do this.
One of the main collectibles of this game is going to different toilets in the game, and because your character has a fractured butthole, there is a mini game of pooping.
I just found the mini game overall to be fairly challenging for myself. I think you had a much easier time doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I just not used to using the controller in some of the ways that it had you use the controller for the minigame, which is fine. It was certainly a clever minigame. But yeah, it did get kind of brain teasery a little bit.
It exerted so much effort. That honestly,
sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes it's just really easy.
Honestly, some of the 4-stars used more effort than I had in battles, like regular enemy battles.
Yeah, I would say so. It's just to be able to communicate, to do all those different finger commands simultaneously.
You get a call from Mitch Connor, and you have to meet up with Mitch Connor.
And at this point, I was not expecting Mitch Connor to give you a call
and have such a prominent
role in the entire story.
Yeah. And the new kid obviously is just taking orders, but at this point, all of the gang knows that Mitch Connor is a bunch of bullshit because it's Cartman.
Because we already did the episode, and that's why I thought it was like a weird thing to put in. Because it's Cartman at this point, because Mitch Connor is Cartman.
Yeah.
It's just his bullshit alter ego.
Like, that's what I meant. Like, we could have just ended everything at the police station and fleshed out all of that, and I would have been fine.
Yeah, I think it would have worked. I think that would have been a fun ending.
Yeah, and I think the Mitch Connor storyline at this point was adding way too much.
It felt tacked on.
Yeah.
So, Mitch Connor starts his little bullshit game, which leads you to now have to go to, find your parents, basically, because your parents are missing.
And because Mitch Connor has them, they kidnapped him. He kidnapped them.
Parent napped.
Yeah. Yep. All of this leads to the final countdown, and you go to Mephisto's lab, which is all the way in the top left corner of the map. Like, you have to go pretty damn far. And that's where you're basically going to uncover a lot of things.
Many butts.
Yes.
Many fractured butts.
Yeah.
Whole.
Yes, many fractured butts whole. And this is where you unlock your ultimate power as well with your farts. And you can actually use farts to change night and day. I would actually say that this part was... This is like another part of the storyline where if we just kind of ended here, I would have been okay with that as well.
Yeah, this part felt pretty solid, like it was planned out, though. So that's what I'm getting. Like, at certain parts towards the end of the game, like, running of it, or stints of it feel really polished, and then in between, it feels like they're just been tacked on, like the thing that was between them.
Yeah.
Was planned out at some point, but for some reason they didn't have time or money to finish it, so they just kind of collapsed them together.
Well, I think it's also important to note that the Stick of Truth was done by Obsidian Entertainment, and the Fractured Butthole was done by Ubisoft.
Calling them out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pretty much the end, there were a lot of parts where it could have been cut, and we would have been completely fine.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't want to make this like a bashing fest too much. And he's captured all the 6th graders in town too, and he's attaching multiple asses to all of them, and they're becoming primal.
Yep.
So they are one of the things you have to now fight through.
I know.
Is like the experiments gone wrong 6th graders.
Including Kyle's brother, who is now this super uber mecha like monster that you have to fight, and that battle was
his brother was his cousin.
His cousin, and that battle was okay in normal mode, but in mastermind mode, that battle was a fucking pain in the ass.
God, it sucked.
Oh god, it was terrible.
Getting back.
Oh man. My biggest advice, actually, it's weird because I felt more confident with my team when I had Kyle, Craig, and Kenny, and I thought that was a solid team. But then in Mastermind level, I switched to the team that I played in normal mode, which was Stan, Tweak, and Captain Diabetes, and I had a way better time defeating that monster with that team, even though that was probably a weaker team. But I think maybe Stan's diagonal move benefited a lot better because he could stand in random ass places and still hit the person.
And I'm wondering, since the enemy you're fighting took up multiple spaces, does it count as getting hit multiple times?
Yeah.
That's a question. I don't know. It was hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, this is where you have to use your farting power DNA to, of course, save the day, but to do so, you have to kill one of your parents.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. So you're instead of peeing in a cup or spitting in a tray, you apparently need a large dose of DNA that comes from your family. So you have to sacrifice one of your parents. You can either kill your father, who you have a mechanism that will chop off his head with a laser beam. Then you have your mother, who is already injured, but you can rip off her arm. And if you rip off her arm, she will die. And the whole time they give you several chances to not actually do it, because every time you attempt to do it, it'll trigger a response that's canned already. And it's really played out.
You have 6 chances,
Yeah.
so you can choose one of them, and it will give you an option. Do you really want to do it? And each option will have it 6 times, or 7, or whatever. So they really want you to make the choice.
Yeah, or at least make it really difficult to make the choice. But ultimately, no matter which choice you make, it gets you out of the room, and in the storyline, it doesn't affect anything, and you'll find out why in a bit.
Yeah. So now that you have this DNA, it all leads to your ultimate power to go back in time and figure out why this is all happening and kind of unravel everything.
To go back in time, though, it doesn't. You need Morgan Freeman to come by and give you the 7-layered cheesy, beefy gordito bean dip taco or whatever.
Yeah. So he comes in and
gives you the special taco. You eat it.
Yeah.
And now you have the power to fart through time.
Which leads finally to the most convoluted part of the storyline. And it's that Mitch Connor is like a time traveler that knew of the new kid because in his family's genes, they have the power of social media.
Yeah, no matter where they go, people like them and want to follow them. And that's why the parents of the new kid had to hide in South Park, because they were trying to run away from the effects that their child naturally had.
And the reason he farts and has all these powers is because there is something put in his food every night that makes him
unnoticeable as far as social media.
Yeah.
Or at least reduces his powers greatly. But in doing so, it gives him monumentally terrible gas, which gives him fart powers. And
to add on top of that, the reason why this is all relevant is because Cartman and Mitch Connor want to become mayor of South Park, and they use the kid's social media influence in Coonstagram to get there so that people will vote for them.
Yep.
And that's the part where I'm just like, okay, this just got way too complicated, because they made, why couldn't you just say that the parents in their genes have special fart power? You know what I mean? Like, why did we have to go all the way to this really ridiculous plot?
Well, it's because the same people that wrote the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie wrote this. Oh, wait, probably wrong. But it suffers from the same issue. It feels like there's 5 stories all jammed into one, and you would have been better off just telling one of the stories rather than trying to cherry pick all the good ideas from all the different stories and smash them together somehow.
Yeah, it's just really weird to me, because when I think back, there's a lot of things that would have simplified it that could and made it okay. Like, for example, the parents could just have natural farting powers, you know what I mean? And
I mean, God knows I do.
Yeah. And then
behold.
And then I don't know, just the whole
Go on.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
I must have used my fart powers to erase your thoughts.
Yeah, probably.
Basically what you do is you get the time fart that Morgan Freeman gives you, and he says, it's very important that you believe in yourself, or else it won't work right, or something. I can't remember. He says something. So you fart, and instead of going back in time to stop Cartman, it actually throws you forward in time 1 week. And Cartman is already mayor at this point. And all hell is broken loose. Everything is on fire, and there's riots.
Every day is also Christmas.
And every day is Christmas. So when you get there, you go outside, and one of the first things you run into is the woodland Christmas critters. And so your team asks you to pray Santa Claus. So you pray, and all of a sudden Santa Claus crashes to Earth. And then a mighty battle ensues.
After that, you go to an abortion clinic so that they're the only doctor in town that can check your butthole, because your butthole
is obviously broken. It's fractured.
Yeah,
it's fractured at this point.
Yeah.
So this is another part that really was confusing to me. So you go out of your way to get to this abortion clinic. You assume there's probably going to be some significant gameplay here, just like there was the last time in the first game. And what happens is the doctor goes in to check your butthole, and then flash forward, nothing, just cut to the ending. He does a checkup on you, and everything's all right. It all checks out. So there's no gameplay, no significant story pushed forward in this at all. It could have just been completely avoided. You didn't have to go to the abortion clinic at all whatsoever, because it was not adding anything to the experience. It only took away from the experience by making you feel like you just got gypped out of something that the FCC didn't want you to see, most likely. I don't know what happened.
It was like they were reaching for a reason to employ the woodland critters and Santa Claus, and they just couldn't think of something else, and yeah.
I don't know.
It was weird. Back in time, now to the actual moment of the story where
your father actually fucked your mom.
Yes. And that's when you discover that the burglars are not actually burglars, but they're there because they wanted to take a picture with you because of your social media. It's just like really, and I didn't like that at all. It really irked me.
Yeah.
It wasn't I didn't actually think it was creative. I thought it was too
a cop out, almost like.
Yeah.
Here's a way to get rid of this or explain it off. I can see that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I want to say that there feels like there's a lot of missing parts of the game story, and I would like to believe that if those parts that I suspect are missing were there would be a lot less questions overall about certain parts, like even that. Like, it would have just been a lot better explained and therefore acceptable.
I know.
Somebody in charge in the upper grown-up places said, "Wow, that's particularly bad. You cannot do that." And they had to just rip the whole scene out of the game. Which could also be the case too, because that would explain why they have all that lead-in. But you go through it and you finally stop your father from fucking your mom.
I know.
And then you believe in yourself again, so you're able to fart through time correctly to the place you want to go to, because you believe in yourself finally. So that goes through, and now you're at the finale.
Yeah.
You're at the finale, and you're just trying to stop Cartman and Mitch Connor, and he's not admitting at this point. You're trying to get him to admit it, and so what Kyle does is now Kyle has Mitch Connor on his hand now too, and both of them are fighting to be the real Mitch Connor, and both of them are accusing each other of faking it. So now the game becomes trying to get both of them to admit they're full of shit.
And that's where Wendy comes in. Oh, by the way, Wendy is another playable character. Wendy helps your character take a selfie of Cartman's plan.
Ah, yes. Because her character's name is Call Girl.
Yes. And you have a selfie that implicates Cartman as Mitch Connor. And this is the part where it's like, in typical Cartman fashion, Cartman always wins. Because Cartman has another bullshit speech to admit his wrongdoings, and then Mitch Connor disappears, and everyone's
just like he did in the episode.
Exactly.
With J-Lo.
Yep.
And there you go. That's the game.
And that's it. Yeah.
So your parents are alive now, and they're happy. And basically, you're standing in the living room now, and they're giggling and happy instead of fighting. And then your father says, "Hey, sport, your mother and I are going to go upstairs for a little while, for a little private time. Hope you don't mind." And then Butters just shows up conveniently to state that
no matter
chaos
what,
no matter what, your mom is always fucked by your dad. There's nothing you can do about it. Chaos always wins. So you can see there's a lot of things going on in the story. And some of them are played off better than others. And ultimately, I think I see the vision that was written that has these things wrap up together in a much more congealed way, but it just didn't happen. And I feel like there's a lot of missing content, and ultimately it kind of just messed up the a really solid ending potentially.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it falls in line with when everyone started being more strict with ratings, to the point that there were those episodes of South Park that were completely pulled out because of content. And I'm sure, because if you get a rating in video games that's like really, really much, like, what's past mature? Like, in video games, I forgot.
It's like rating 18 plus or whatever.
Yeah.
There's other ratings too, but usually if you get any of those ratings past mature, your game doesn't sell very well.
Exactly. So that's probably what they were trying. That's probably what it may have passed.
Yeah, you're very right. Like, I think the rating system came in. And...
If I could sum up my feelings about the storyline, I think almost 90% of everything with Cartman I did not like.
Yeah. Lukewarm overall.
Yeah, that's my summary of the storyline. I didn't like Cartman.
Disappointingly warm.
Yeah. Like, Cartman's mastermind self was not entertaining for me this time around.
Yeah, it's a rare miss. I don't know. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I wasn't really entertained by much he had to say. I was not interested in his character. Mm-hmm. I was not interested in the actual, like, battle system character that he had.
Oh yeah, Cartman is, in my opinion, one of the weakest allies you could have.
And it's not, like, weak physically. He's just boring and not very versatile, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just boring. It was very boring stuff with Cartman.
Overall, there are parts that I really liked about the game, but it's also weighed down by parts that I didn't like, and I'd say I think this game is good to play at least... If you're a South Park fan, I would play this game at least once.
Yeah, it's good for one playthrough, but...
Yeah.
Second playthrough is difficult. I would probably rather go back and play Stick of Truth, which also suffers from a very similar problem. Once you play through it once, you know the story, because it's like playing one ginormous episode or movie.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the criticism that it had might have been very well deserved. Any other thoughts?
So I know there's criticism about the battle system. I actually liked the battle system. I think it's because I'm used to that type of battle system.
I do too, actually.
Yeah.
Well, at first we weren't very good with it. It was challenging because we weren't sure what we were supposed to be doing. It wasn't a direct, obvious battle system. To some parts, it was like directly obvious what you had to do, but all the characters were so different and with a different intent to be used in a very specific way, that wasn't always straightforward. That until you played through enough and got used to using all these characters, it wasn't very enjoyable because you were spending more time trying to put analysis on how you should use them.
Yeah.
And then once you figured out how to use them, it was really obvious.
Exactly.
Like, it's one of those things where you feel dumb once you figure it out. But until you figure it out, it's like, what the heck is going on? At least that's how I felt about it. So, some positive notes on the game. We should probably end this on some positive notes. Let's think of some positive things.
Well, I don't know. I felt pretty positive about, like, the first 2/3 of the game, in my opinion. Like I said, if it ended at the police station, I think I would have been very, like, overly satisfied with the game. Like, ended with the police station and elaborated on that a lot more.
Yeah, I think they easily could have. I think that could have been the breadth of the story, and then focused in on that and gotten away with an entire game. I also enjoyed a lot of the subsystems in the game. Like, it was really cute that the entire thing, the menu system was your phone, and you had apps on your phone that were different sections of, like, maybe the help menu or Coonstagram, and Coonstagram worked a lot like Instagram, obviously.
Yes.
And it was fun that you could get mission updates through your Coonstagram, so people would comment on photos or just give you comments on your profile altogether, and that would be how your missions got updated, or resolved, or added. So that was a very interesting way to approach a game system like that. Definitely not typical. You could also do cute things with your phone, like you could change the background, and you could change the background to photos that you actually took in the game. So that was a nice little touch they put in.
Yeah.
Somebody spent a lot of time doing this whole menu system on the phone, I could tell. You could also go into the options and change whether or not your phone had a cracked screen or had finger smudges all over it. So it could add like levels of interactivity and realism past just obviously being a phone. So it was cute. So there's a lot of points where there's a lot of thought put into the game.
A lot of the puzzles I enjoyed. A lot of the puzzles, especially in Mephisto's lab, were really difficult to figure out, but it was very accomplishing when you did.
I think the puzzles that were most difficult to figure out were the ones that weren't openly like forward about what exactly we were supposed to do. You're just kind of in a room and there's nothing per se obvious. I
thought that Craig was a standout character for me, and Scott Malkinson, because
Captain Diabetes
was awesome.
Diabetes is a baller.
He was, God, by far the best,
like one of the best characters in the entire game.
Yeah.
And probably should utilize his character
100%.
in the show a lot more now.
I know. I also appreciated the quick Kevin Stoley storyline where he's playing Star Trek.
Yes.
In his room.
Because he's given up on playing the games again with them, and he's gone back to his Star Trek game.
I know. That was awesome. I also very much enjoyed Kenny and Mysterion in this game, too. And that was, honestly, everyone was pretty chill except for Cartman. I just didn't like Cartman's character in the battle system or in the main storyline.
And then his motive in the main storyline too. Yeah, ultimately the motive of the main storyline was just kind of bizarre.
Yeah. That's all I have to say. The Fractured Butthole is good to play at least once.
Yes, the Fractured Butthole is good to play at least once.
Yep.
And say multiple times.
Yeah.
With an ASMR voice. Fractured Butthole. Peace out.
Have a good day, everyone. Woo!